Hey everyone, Paul Burmeister. Welcome to the 2019 Roto World Mock Draft. Keeping very good company here to go through picks 1 through 32 of the upcoming NFL Draft. To my immediate left, the 97th overall pick of the 2003 draft.
Doesn't have that good of a ring to it, 97, but we'll take it.
The only one here selected, and of course the co-host, the main host of the wildly popular podcast.
But you do help me a lot, so I am co-host.
Thank you very much.
Okay, you're my man, so thank you, though.
I know you're ready to roll here. We've talked draft quite a bit the last 3 or 4 weeks.
Right.
I've talked to draft quite a bit the last 3 or 4 years with Josh Norris. You know Josh as the draft analyst for Roto World and also for NBC Sports. You ready to roll here?
I'm happy to be here. It feels like old times here with you, Paul.
Right?
I'm excited.
Yeah. I agree. I feel like we should have Ross Tucker sitting
Something
right here.
Like
maybe Chris Canty.
Something like that.
In his place, Thor Nystrom. He is the lead college football writer for Roto World. And now his presence, guys, means that half of the people up here, University of Iowa graduates.
Oh, wow.
Yes.
Wow.
The esteemed Writers Workshop he graduated from.
The IQ of this table has gone down.
But neither one played tight end. How funny that is in this year's draft class.
There you go. There you go.
Right.
I would imagine we'll hear a couple of Iowa tight ends pop up here in the first round.
No doubt about it.
Mock draft, you know how it works. We're going 1 through 32. Chris is going to start out. Josh will follow. And then Thor will go after that. We'll do it all the way through 32. We should point out that this is how you think the draft will go, not how you think it should be picked,
yeah,
right?
I'm going to play a little blend there. I mean, there are some picks there that, okay, we're hearing this team likes this player. I don't know. I still don't know if I'll have the guts to pull the trigger. I'm going to say I'm hearing this, but I would pick this guy, and I think I might do that. But either way, we're going to cover all our bases and at least give some good knowledge, I think, on all of these players. So that's which is about the conversation.
For sure, and obviously everyone tunes into the draft because they have no idea what's going to happen. So we might predict 32 picks in this draft, but we'll probably get 5 or 6 right. That's about it.
And that would be good.
Yes, that would be great.
That's it? 5 or 6?
Yeah.
I think we have a better chance than that.
I thought we ordered the guy who was going to get 9 or 10 right.
No?
Didn't do that? All right, before we get rolling here, for all the latest news and rumors leading up to the NFL Draft and for analysis on every pick during the draft, you can check out rotoworld.com/NFL news. And for the latest Chris Simms Unbuttoned episodes, subscribe at youtube.com/NBC Sports or wherever you listen to your podcasts. All right, we are ready to roll with the first overall pick, the Arizona Cardinals. So you get to be Steve Keim here for at least a minute or two.
Yes. I don't even need a minute or two. I'm ready.
All right.
The pick is in.
Yes.
Yeah, I think this is a no-brainer. I don't think this is a shock to anybody. Kyler Murray. That's who's going number 1.
Did you give
to
thought
the Arizona?
To anybody else?
Well, to me, there's only 2 other guys in the conversation for top player in the draft. I don't know how you guys feel about this, but I think it's a Quinnen Williams or Nick Bosa situation. I'll let you comment on that. Either way, I think Kyler Murray is the most talented quarterback of this draft. I think this will happen. I think this should happen as well. You hire an unproven NFL commodity in Cliff Kingsbury as your new head coach. You want to give him somebody that he feels comfortable with and feels that they can take advantage of his offense best. And this is not an indictment on Josh Rosen. Josh Rosen's still going to be a starting quarterback for somebody and have a good career. It's not about that. I just think Kyler Murray's a special player. He's got a really good arm. He's very good in the pocket. He's a good decision maker. He's accurate. And then his athleticism is up there with anybody we've ever seen as far as dual threat quarterbacks running. It's Michael Vick-ish. It's better than Lamar Jackson. They haven't announced that this is the guy,
right?
Because I think there's a lot of reasons for that, but this is the guy. I don't think anybody in the NFL is thinking otherwise right now.
And if we can spin this forward at all, this means that Josh Rosen will be hoping to find another team, right? And so, what could the Cardinals possibly get for Josh Rosen?
What do you think?
I would probably say it's a second-round pick in 2019 and maybe a mid-round pick in 2020.
Yeah.
But as we go along, one day you hear that the Giants are interested, the next day you hear that the Giants aren't interested. The same thing with Washington, one day versus the next. I do wonder if Steve Keim, the day of the draft, will reach out to all the teams that need a quarterback and say, hey, give me your best offer. I'm going to choose one immediately after we pick Kyler Murray, and boom, that's who he's going to.
Yeah, I think the conversations will go something like that, maybe even a call before the draft just to get a feel for who even wants to have that conversation.
I think it's an enormous mistake to give the dissenting opinion here. Yeah, you hired the fired Texas Tech coach. You're going to sell low on your first-round pick last year, who was not in a position to succeed. They didn't have a supporting cast around him.
Agreed, right.
It's like, Chauncey Billups when he struggled, initially in the NBA, and then you sell low on him, and of course, he ends up being good. And then you're going to overdraft a player that's never existed before in the NFL and could leave for baseball again in 3 or 4 years if he is not, at least an average starting NFL quarterback.
If you were making this pick, then, since you disagree, who would you take at number 1?
Oh, I'm going the trenches. I would go either Quinnen, Josh Allen, Joey Bosa. I mean, throw a dart.
Yeah.
This is a transcendent defensive line class, and they have needs everywhere. I mean, I have all these categories, and I have the top 3, offensive line, defensive line, wide receiver, edge. They have all these needs, and then I have a don't need category. The Cardinals, quarterback and running back.
Well, and one thing we quickly need to mention with them is their offensive line was horrific last year.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
And at least Kyler Murray has that mobility that you and I always talk about, Chris, where he's not glued to the pocket like a Josh Rosen is.
Yeah, no, I think that's the big thing. And for a guy, like we said, with Cliff Kingsbury, who is going to be tinkering with his offense, Kyler Murray gives him a little bit of a get-out-of-jail-for-free card, right? Oh, okay, gosh, this wasn't good, but there he goes, scrambling down the sidelines for 40 yards or getting outside the pocket and throwing a 50-yard bomb down the field. Again, it's not about Josh Rosen. I think you talked about, yes, it's like, what did you say, an unseen commodity in the NFL before?
He's never existed before.
Yeah, right. I know. Well, neither did Russell Wilson or Michael Vick or those guys too. So that, I think again, when you talk about this guy and first picks and top 5 picks and first round picks, it's about elite traits. And not only is the guy an elite thrower, he is like he's Darren Sproles with an unbelievable arm running. I don't think there's ever been a better running quarterback to come in the league other than Michael Vick than Kyler Murray. And I think that's how dangerous he is. And that's why I say number 1. But I understand your logic. I don't think it's totally crazy.
Well, if it plays out this way, Josh, this is great news for the 49ers because thinking of who they don't need a quarterback. So they have their pick of every player in the draft not named Kyler Murray.
It's amazing news for them. And I know that 49ers fans are probably sick of them drafting front 4 players or front 5 players.
Yeah.
Because we had Eric Armstead, you had DeForest Buckner, then you traded up 1 pick to select Solomon Thomas, and then you trade for D Ford this offseason. But the selection is Nick Bosa out of Ohio State. And he's very similar, obviously, to his brother and Joey Bosa. They win in the exact same way. But there are very few people in the NFL that you can ask to line up in one-on-one situations and potentially win every single one of their pass rushing reps. And Nick Bosa has that profile to him. And that's why you're going to see, as we go along this top 10, a lot of those interior guys and edge rushers are drafted so early on. But Nick Bosa's selection here for the 49ers.
Do you have him rated higher than Quinnen Williams, or do you just think they need this position more?
They need this position more because Solomon Thomas, I believe they drafted him to play on the edge. And again, they drafted him, I believe, at number 2 overall.
Yeah, it was.
And he
or
just
number 3. They traded with Trubisky, right? Trubisky got 2. He went 3.
So then they weren't allowed to, or they weren't able to allow him to win on the edge. That's just not his style, right? So he's much more of an interior disruptor. And so having a Nick Bosa complementing D Ford on the other side with those 3 other DeForest Buckner, Eric Armstead in the interior, that's a really menacing front 5 you have.
Yeah, I hear you there. And to answer your question, I think Quinnen Williams is the better player, just slightly over Nick Bosa. At least, like, if I had my big board, he would be ahead of him. But I think the position need is greater at the defensive end position. Yes, they've drafted 3 defensive tackles basically out of the last 5 drafts, and I just can't imagine them going that route once again. Plus, they play a Seattle defensive scheme. They got a D Ford on one side. We talked about the D tackles they got. Now you add another legit pass rusher on the other edge, and all of a sudden you go, holy cow, this 49ers defensive line is coming out of some waves here. And I think that's the great possibility the 49ers have if they get Bosa.
Chris, I know you are tight with some people high up in the 49ers organization.
Right. Yes.
But this is the season that's kind of make or break for them in some ways, right?
Yes.
Kyle Shanahan is a great play caller.
Right.
We all know that.
Right.
And sure, in 2017, they traded for a quarterback halfway through the year and went on a winning streak. Then 2018, he gets injured very early on. But like year 3, you can't have really excuses anymore.
None.
Is this really kind of make or break for maybe the higher ups in that group?
I think that it's not like make or break totally to me where like, oh, if they don't make the playoffs, he gets fired. But I think if they don't show, yeah, exactly right. If they don't show, okay, they're in the conversation by December and they're at least in that contention for wild card, whatever it may be, they're going to be really dealing with their bad perception, not only with their bosses and the 49ers organization, but the media and everything. So this is a big year for Kyle Shanahan, John Lynch. The defense was improved last year. I know Jimmy Garoppolo got hurt, but the defense was, 11th in football? Am I right about that? I'm right around there. So they have things going in the right direction. They just need to stay healthy and then win some football games this year.
Thor, we're not making it easy for you on your first pick. So we're here in Stamford, Connecticut, very close to a lot of Jets fans. Jets fans all over the building. They're a little anxious about the draft. They're not afraid to be vocal. So be careful with who you give the Jets here at 3.
Yeah, you have made it easy for me. I'm going Josh Allen. It's going to be the decision would be Bosa or Allen, and of course Bosa or Allen's probably going to go probably Bosa at number 2. So Josh Allen's a very easy pick here. Guy that went back to school, would have been a mid-round pick the year before if he'd come out. Goes back to Kentucky, gets bigger, keeps the athleticism. He's a guy that can do everything. The Jets wanted to sign Anthony Barr, weren't able to get it done. Josh Allen is Anthony Barr plus. Josh Allen can do everything that Anthony Barr can do as an off-ball linebacker, and plus he is a transcendent edge rushing talent. I think it's a slam dunk pick.
What's crazy about the Jets, and this sounds like hyperbole, they have not had a competent or good edge rusher in 15 years.
Right.
And 15 years is a very long time.
Who was that?
John
15 years
Abraham.
ago?
Like maybe you can throw in Calvin Pace here or there, but they've drafted on the interior a lot with Mo Wilkerson, with Leonard Williams, with Sheldon Richardson, but haven't had a solid edge presence in 15 years. And obviously Josh Allen would hopefully bring that to the table.
Definitely, an intriguing prospect. I think this is one of the most overrated guys in all of the drafts. I don't think he's going to add much pass rush value in the NFL. I mean, we're talking about guys like Anthony Barr, Vic Beasley, who can't really play the position that they played in college and had to move to stand-up linebacker. And I think if we redrafted an Anthony Barr, he would no longer be a top 10 pick the way he's played now. He's still a really good player. Obviously, got paid big money like that. I have worries about Josh Allen. I understand the need for a pass rusher for the New York Jets, but Josh Allen does not have great bend coming around the edge. I thought a number of his sacks were won in ways that are not going to be realistically won in the NFL. So I have my concerns there. I know he's a very versatile athlete, and there's certainly things I like. I just don't love him at number 3. To me, there's things about his game that scare me, and I let you know about a few of them.
And I completely disagree. I mean, he beat a lot of NFL-esque or NFL in the NFL now SEC tackles. And the one question he had about his game, coming into this year, and this is what the NFL told him, when he got the advice from the advisory board, they said they wanted him to get bigger, they said they wanted him to get more well-rounded, and they wanted him to get better against the run. And if you look at his PFF page, his run grade went from like in the 50s to in the 80s this year. I mean, just improved tremendously. And you're getting the pass rusher, and he can also drop back in coverage. I mean, you probably wouldn't want him to do that, but he can do it all.
I think that's what he's going to be drafted at, though. You guys said Anthony Barr. He is going to be that kind of guy, I think.
Deion Jordan.
Yeah, or he's going to be. So he just worries me. And again, I know he played in the SEC, and that was really good. But the biggest worry I have about the guy, and it goes into a little bit to your point with the run game defense and all of that. I know this even from my NFL friends. His ability to go speed to power does not exist. And the physicality of his game was the thing that you and I talked about on the podcast that really bothered me. There is a physical element that you need at that position to be successful. And I think he misses that. I could be wrong, and I'll be the first one to admit it when it's all said and done. But I just have my concerns. And, that's all I'll say about Josh Allen. But certainly an interesting prospect and a very good athlete at the very least.
And let me just add, that was a huge concern of mine after last season, right? But then he comes back, and in 2018, I just thought he made an enormous leap in that specific facet of the game.
Right. Josh, did you not hear what I said about Jets fans being nervous and you throw out Deion Jordan? Just like you're going to float that out there?
Dwayne Robertson.
In terms of a dropped end, I think that's where maybe Josh Allen is best. And I love the name that Thor brought up in Anthony Barr, because they were going to sign him to play an edge rushing role. And it might not be because he's playing now for the Vikings, but maybe that's how they see Josh Allen in the NFL.
All right, bringing us to the Oakland Raiders at 4. And I think if it plays out this way and a certain player is available here at 4, John Gruden and Mike Mayock would be
They're going to run and do cartwheels, I think. Yes, Quinnen Williams to go to the Oakland Raiders at number 4. I think that's a no-brainer. And I think, of course, yes, you said it. The Oakland Raiders would be just ecstatic to get this football player. I think if you made me rank him, this would be the best player in the draft. You've heard me say, as far as being in the evaluation process that I've been in since I retired in football, 2010 was my last season in the league. I've been a football nerd, watching film guys and all that. This is the best interior defensive lineman film I've ever seen in my short career of doing mock drafts and talking draft and evaluating football players. I actually thought his film was more impressive than Aaron Donald coming out of college, just because he has a little bit more of a power element or ability to anchor versus double teams and not get pushed around that way. But Quinnen Williams, there's really nothing, I don't know, if you guys see if there's anything negative about the player, please let me know. He can win with speed, he can win with power, he wins with quickness and just absolutely breaking the ankles, like almost almost crossover dribbles and things
Smart,
like that against
too.
guards, and he's smart
So
too.
smart.
And we did an interview with him. He's got a great way about him too. So
Driving up to see his grandmother on her birthday. I mean, come on.
Exactly. He was worried about buying her something before himself. So he's a stand-up guy.
21 years of age when the NFL season starts. I mean, interior disruption can be king, right? And that's why the Raiders invested 2 mid-round, late-round picks in the position last year in P.J. Hall and Maurice Hurst out of Michigan.
Right.
And both of those are very talented players, but those types of talents don't keep you from taking a Quinnen Williams
Exactly.
in the top 5.
Exactly right.
It seems like there's 1 or 2 players a year, and I always keep track of what you guys say and what other people are saying about them in their analysis. And sometimes there are players where it's like I can't even bring up a negative because it doesn't seem to be out there.
I don't think there is one out there for this guy. It's hard for me to find it.
Hopefully it translates to success for him. We have him going to the Raiders at 4, bringing us to the Buccaneers at number 5. Josh.
I'm interested in this one.
The Buccaneers would have loved to have Quinnen Williams because this Gerald McCoy situation on the interior defensive line is a bit up in the air. You know, there are some other talented interior defensive line in this class, and an Ed Oliver, but I'm going to go as someone that can maybe captain this defense, that can really be a focal point of this defense moving forward, and that's LSU linebacker Devin White. I mean, this is a team that lost Quan Alexander to the San Francisco 49ers. Obviously, Levante David is there, and they signed Deion Buchanan, but we know why Deion Buchanan is no longer in the Cardinals because he's kind of a liability in certain aspects of the game.
He is.
But Devin White is one of the true sideline to sideline linebackers that come in and out of the draft.
Right.
And he is someone that at the second level, you know, if your linebackers are slow, your defense is slow.
Yeah.
And Devin White and Levante David might early on in their career with the Bucs turn into one of the best pairings, one of the best duos at the position in the NFL.
And I have no doubt about the player. Is this position at number 5, is that too high for someone who doesn't put pressure on the quarterback, who is a sideline to sideline player instead of someone who is disrupting the pocket?
I hear you, but like for how much the NFL is in nickel coverage now, and for how much linebackers are asked to do, and we just saw Roquan Smith go at pick number 8, which is a little bit later on.
Yeah.
But I think that just with Quinnen Williams off the board, Devin White makes a ton of sense to me.
Yes, you go ahead. You go ahead, Tori.
I think he can blitz. You know, he's a former linebacker. I think 4.42 speed. Really good at timing, and he's really good at picking his way through. You know, timing the gap and just knifing through there.
He is.
You know, they didn't use him as much as that, but I think he's really good. He's one of the better off-ball linebacker blitzers. And you know, I think he can be leveraged more in that specific part of his game.
Yeah, he's phenomenal. To all of Thor's point, just from there, to get pressure, what we would call green dogs in the NFL, right? Like times like he's supposed to cover the back in coverage. Oh, the back is blocking. Now he gets the chance to go rush the quarterback, and his acceleration and explosion. Woo. I think quarterbacks go, oh, he's not coming, and they look downfield, and all of a sudden they go, boom, who the hell was that? And they go, oh crap, it was the guy that I said wasn't coming. How the hell did he get here so fast? He is truly a special, explosive middle linebacker. To answer your question, I think he's better than Roquan Smith last year. Wow. And and to what Josh says, the middle linebacker in this NFL right now, you know, you got to stop the power run game.
Yep.
You got to be able to run sideline to sideline. Oh, here goes Tyreek Hill on a speed sweep. You better go run him down. The wide receiver screen game, it's so wide open. You have to be so multiple at the linebacker position, covering tight ends down the seam, all of those things. And this kid has no weakness.
And there truly is a massive drop-off after that first tier of linebackers. We'll get to Devin Bush, I'm sure, in a little bit out of Michigan. But it's Devin White, Devin Bush, and then everyone else.
Right.
So if you're invested and want an inside linebacker in this class, you're going to take one early.
And listen to the way you described him and what he could do. Made me think of a highlight I saw. I think of a show you guys did right here in the studio with Jalen Smith last year, chasing someone down from the middle all the way out to the sideline.
Exactly
I think on a wide receiver screen.
Yes, it's part of the game. When you got the Odell Beckham Jr.'s and the Antonio Browns of the world, and then you got psycho offensive coordinators like a Freddie Kitchen or a John Gruden who are going, how can I get this guy the ball all the time? Yes, you have to take that element into account, especially, too, with, hey, the tight ends of the world. It's not, hey, Gronkowski's out, but you got to be able to, Travis Kelce's going down the seam, and he's going to see guys like O.J. Howard in practice every day. Those type of guys where they can be end-of-the-line blockers, but also almost slot receivers. You better have a linebacker that can run down the field with them and scare a quarterback away from throwing at them every now and then.
We must believe in your mental toughness here because we're giving you the Jets.
I get the Bills next.
Giants. And then the Giants. So a couple of difficult picks.
He is Thor. I mean, he's the king of some world I can't
Asgard,
remember.
right?
Asgard. He's got a big hammer, so he can handle this.
and he's lived in Iowa City.
Yeah. Oh,
You
right.
left that out.
I forgot about that.
Chris is looking at me like, yeah. All right, Giants at 6.
Yeah, man, there's a lot of smoke around. There's a lot of mystery around this pick, right, guys? Listen, I'm not buying the smoke around this thing. I think they're going Haskins, and I might live to regret this. Yeah,
at 6.
At 6, yeah. Again, there's been a lot of smoke, but I think that might be out there to ensure that Haskins gets there.
Could be.
Yeah,
Interesting.
Could be.
I don't buy this thing about the media created Dwayne Haskins. Watch Dwayne Haskins on film. The kid's great.
I mean, but we have heard like this offseason, last offseason, that Dave Gettleman is in the camp of Eli Manning.
Yeah.
And it's not just Dave Gettleman that's in the camp of Eli Manning. It's really the organization making these excuses for poor play of Eli Manning.
I would agree with that.
And I just don't know how you could be sitting at pick number 2 last year, pass on those quarterbacks, and then take one at pick number 6 this year, especially in a class.
I think that's the reason why you have to.
Well, especially in a class, though, where Dave Gettleman says, okay, I trust in my ability to build a roster around Eli Manning and then invest in defensive line, edge rushers, because we know he loves those hog mollies.
Yeah, hog mollies. That's one of his favorite phrases. Yeah, I mean, listen, I think last year they wanted to take a quarterback. It was a weird year because Saquon Barkley was there, and he's the type of running back that only comes out every so often. So I think they got, enamored with that, which I understand because for my money, I'd already say Saquon Barkley is the best running back in football after 1 year. But to Thor's point, I hear you, Thor. I mean, I don't know where the Dwayne Haskins conversation went. He is a top 10 talent. I've said he's got a lot of Ben Roethlisberger in his game. I really like what he has. I think really where he failed, and you and I have talked about this, was his look at the combine. That's where it's almost a litmus test in itself. And the fact that he was a little out of shape, I don't think he blew people away in the meeting rooms. And then you cramp after 140, and teams go, wait, you had 6 weeks to get ready for this, and you weren't ready. I think that's scares teams. So I question whether the Giants would be one of those teams that get scared away because they're old and traditional, but he certainly fits the way they want to play football. Right. Northeast, throw the ball deep down the field, not going to be affected by, the elements. There's a lot to like about Dwayne Haskins. And my last point about the New York Giants at number 6 would be this, just to differ on Josh. If you like a quarterback, and I don't care who it is, even if it's Daniel Jones, who I don't even think is a first-round quarterback, but if you like one, take him at number 6 and get it done with, because you're flirting with a freaking disaster. I didn't say the F word, everybody.
You might later.
Yeah, I might. But you're flirting with disaster if you're going to wait at number 17 and think, oh, we'll get a Haskins there or a Drew Lock there. So I'm not angry at that.
I'm totally with you.
Yeah.
Like, if you love a quarterback and think he's a quality starter, he shoots to the top of the board. In fact, like, quarterback should be in a separate board than everyone else.
Yep.
It's tough for me to give Dave Gettleman as much credit as you're giving him.
But isn't it odd that, it seems like every year leading into this one that we've sort of known what the Giants were going to do?
Yeah. Well, they've had issues.
They have.
Well, even you think about 2 years, Leonard Floyd and Jake Conklin. They told everybody in the world that's who they're going to pick, and everybody got in front of them and took them because I don't know how it got out, but everybody knew it.
That was not the Dave Gettleman situation.
No, that was not Gettleman, to be fair.
So
you're right.
He has been somewhat tight-lipped in the past.
They plugged the leagues this year.
Yes, they did.
And, they're going to do something that people don't expect. And at this point, drafting Dwayne Haskins would be something that you don't expect.
Yes, it would be.
So that's 2 quarterbacks off the board.
Wow.
Giants going Dwayne Haskins at 6. Kyler Murray, number 1, no surprise, to Arizona. Back to you, Chris Simms, number 7, the Jacksonville Jaguars.
This is where it gets to be an interesting draft a little bit. I think this is the first pick, really, where it can go different ways here. To me, for the Jacksonville Jaguars, it comes to maybe tackle or tight end here in this situation. Defense, forget about it. They don't need a defense. They already got the most talented defense in football as it is. It's a really, wide receiver, maybe, but there's nobody worth that at number 7. So I'm going to go with T.J. Hawkinson from Iowa. Wow. Okay, I think that's going to be the pick there. I do. I think, first of all, this is Doug Marrone. He wants to run the football. Okay, so he'd like to have a tight end that can also block in the run game. Hawkinson is very well-rounded in both, tough as hell. And then, of course, is a big-time threat down the field catching the football. Hawkinson ran 4.7 at the combine, right, guys?
That's right.
He plays much faster than that. To me, if you just went off the film, I'd go, oh, this guy's like a high 4.5, low 4.6 guy, but a really well-rounded football player who I think is only going to get bigger and stronger, has a frame to grow into, to where I think he is, Travis Kelce-ish in his football game. And I think this makes a lot of sense to help out of Nick Foles.
And to your point, he is super athletic. He had an athletic profile in the 85th percentile. I think we've been spoiled a bit by tight ends in recent years because prior to your George Kittles, your O.J. Howards, a handful of others, Evan Ingram, we didn't see tight ends produce early on in their career. In fact, it's one of the slowest developing positions in the NFL. A lot of big names that are still good in the NFL were not productive until their second contracts and even their second team. Delaney Walker, Greg Olsen, I can go down a massive list. I would here side with a tackle like Jawan Taylor, because I think the biggest issue to me for Nick Foles' transition from the Eagles to the Jaguars, other than Doug Peterson not calling plays, is the offensive line situation and his comfort in the pocket that he probably won't have in Jacksonville.
Absolutely, but man, Hawkinson would be really fun for Foles to play with. Yeah, and I think that Hawkinson is a transcendent tight end prospect, best blocking college tight end that I've seen. He's also an A-plus receiver. He was a better receiver than Noah Fant last year. They were on the same team. Hawkinson was featured from the jump, and to Chris's point, fabulously athletic. You know, I would see him hurdle defensive backs. You know, they would try to do the Gronk thing where they'd cut his knees out from him.
Yeah, right.
Hawkinson will just take to the sky and jump over him. Just a tremendous receiver, and he's a guy that came on so quickly this past season.
Yep. Yeah, he's a special player. I mean, he has a chance to be in the conversation for the best at the position 2 or 3 years down the road. And to what Josh was saying about the O-line thing, too, I get where he's coming from. That's where my mind was, too. I just think they're going to go, we've got Andrew Norwell. We got Cam Robinson at left tackle, who was a second-round pick, right? They got a really good center in Brandon Linder, who's one of the better centers in the sport. You know, they signed a guy like Cedric Ogbuehi, who once was a first-round pick, and it hasn't been pretty to this point. But I also got to go, Doug Marrone's an offensive line coach. So I think he's going to also look at it and go, I can coach some of these guys up and get a little bit more out of them than maybe the rest. That's just what I think about here, but I wouldn't be shocked if it went O-line either.
All right, thinking about offensive line, let's go to the Lions at 8. They've shown that they like offensive line high in the draft, and they could have anyone they want because there's not an O-lineman off the board yet.
Yeah.
So this is fun because, as you all hopefully can tell, we did not share what our picks were going to be prior to this.
No, we did not.
And so I was not expecting Mississippi State edge rusher Montez Sweat to be on the board here. But he is the selection. I know that the Patriots contingent that's basically in Detroit now signed him to this massive contract. And we can argue if it's too much money or if it's the right amount. But Trey Flowers is someone that is an outside to inside pass rusher, okay? The Lions now, without Ziggy Ansah on the team, have really needed someone to create consistent disruption on the outside. And Montez Sweat is the type of pass rusher that you can line up on the outside as a fantastic run defender, but more importantly, has this ridiculous athleticism and long arm to win in one-on-one situations. He'll be more athletic than every single offensive tackle he faces in the NFL.
Love this pick. Yeah, I mean, he's long, he is fast, 4.4 speed, and he's tremendous against the run, which is where, for me, he differentiates himself from Brian Burns. All-around defensive end. Love the kid. You know, for the Lions sitting there, I mean, the dream scenario, I think, is either Sweat or Hawkinson gets down the board.
Yeah.
And they got one here.
Right. Yeah, I know. That's Lions were one of the question marks for me in the top 10 because, you know, even with Montez Sweat, agree with both you guys. The player is a baller, and I really don't even think we've seen the real Montez Sweat. To me, these type of guys flourish in the NFL when they get around other alpha males and they start to eat, live, and breathe football
and learn from their teammates.
They got learn from their teammates. They're being coached all day long. There's no more 20-hour rule for college football. He sees a guy like Trey Flowers and he goes, "Damn, he's kind of freakish. I better get on my game if I want to still be the head freak in the room," or whatever it may be. All of that. Daniel Hunter, think about him. He came out of LSU, went to the Minnesota Vikings. I thought, man, this guy's just some tall, long, kind of a wimpy player. I didn't love him, but he got in the environment. He sees Everson Griffin, and all of a sudden he's at the top of the NFL in sacks. So, yeah, I'm with you there. Cool. Only thing I would question, I guess, a little bit, because I do think the tight end was in the conversation, would they go another O lineman? Just because sometimes New England, Patricia, they don't always seem to believe in the pass rush type. I'm just throwing out food for thought. I don't know that,
and we talk about
but
this
I have
all the
no
time.
problem with Montez Sweat, the player.
We know that the Patriots and their tree knows how to manufacture disruption.
Yeah.
But and to your point to offensive line, I mean, they could. Their right tackle right now is Ricky Wagner. Their right guard is someone named Kenny Wiggins.
Yeah.
So, I mean, look, they've gone early with Taylor Decker and Frank Ragnow, and Graham Glasgow has been a nice late-round center for them. So offensive line, if a Montez Sweat isn't on the board, would make sense.
Yeah. I have a question about that because, I mean, everybody said they like the player, but you have Brian Burns from Florida State rated significantly higher at the same position. How come you didn't put him in that spot?
I think also the NFL has types at the spot, right? And Montez Sweat is 6'6", 260 pounds versus someone, as told you, is trying to eat 6 meals a day basically to stay at 250 pounds.
Exactly.
And so if you have a prototype defensive end that also tests in the 97th percentile who's just as athletic as Brian Burns, it makes sense.
New England believes in size, Paul. They believe in big people. I don't think Brian Burns would be their cup of tea to be on the edge of the defense. It's not really in their DNA. I always tell that to people. People like New England, and I know this is Detroit we're talking about, but they're trying to replicate New England North, right? New England's one of those teams where, for whatever reason, the uniforms don't look like that makes them look smaller, but when you get on the field and see them in person and you go, whoa, there's Nate Solder, or Rob Gronkowski or whoever it may be, you go, this team is gigantic in person, and they win with their physicality. It's Bill Belichick. He came from my dad's Giants team. They believe in being bigger and out-physicaling teams, so that is part of their motto.
We saw a current Detroit Lions player this weekend and asked him how it's going. He's like, you mean the Detroit University Patriots?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes.
So that's what's going on.
Yes.
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.